Hello everyone, this is Pet Crochets. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a quick video talking about my experiences with how I started making my own clothing or making my own crochet patterns. I've gotten a lot of DMs and messages on Instagram asking me what my personal experience was with how I started making my own patterns. And a quick disclaimer, I'm still fairly new to crocheting and making my own patterns, but this is my personal experience, and I thought, why not share and see if anyone has a similar experience or can share anything in the comments below to help a new crocheter out. Or maybe you can learn something from this video, or even feel motivated to start making your own patterns in your own clothing. So I remember when I first started crocheting, the very first thing I did was I needed to get hooks. I got this crochet hook set from Amazon. It comes with a variety of different hook sizes. It comes with stitch markers and darning needle. And then something like a very simple crochet book might be helpful. This outlines like different stitches, different ideas. This was actually gifted to me from a friend, and it really motivated me and taught me a variety of different stitches, but I would say this comes a little bit later. I would use the resources that you have available, for example, YouTube or crochet blogs, Google, to learn the basic stitches. You need the foundation first before even thinking about making your own garments. So how to make a chain, how to make slip stitches, single crochet, half double crochet, how to make a foundation chain, those sorts of things. So I really kind of studied first before I even started. And then I would recommend starting with an easier yarn, for example, acrylic weight 4 yarn. Figuring out what yarn to use for your crochet garments is a whole other video, but I started with a weight 4 acrylic yarn. This was something that was recommended when I googled it online, as it is a fairly easy yarn to work with. And if you don't know what size hook to use, you can always look at the back of the yarn and it will recommend what hook size is best. Especially when you're first starting out, I would say follow the recommendation on the back of the yarn, or if you're following a YouTube tutorial, follow what the crocheter uses in the video. I even got the same exact yarn as the video tutorials I was following, especially when I was just starting out. Before I started making my own patterns, I started off by practicing crocheting very simple things from YouTube tutorials. For example, a hat, I believe I made a scarf, a really easy bolero. You want to have the foundation and really get a lot of practice in. So how to hold the yarn, how to hold the hook, the tension. As you practice more, you'll start to get a better feel for these things, and then you'll start to be able to build experience to be able to make your own patterns and your crochet garments. Another thing that I did was I practiced making a swatch before each garment. A swatch is basically a 4x4 square or rectangle that you make using the stitch, the yarn, and the hook that you're going to be using. This will tell you how much the yarn is going to stretch, what it's going to look like, and you can also determine how many rows and how many stitches are going to be per square inch for your pattern. And that's going to matter when you're trying to fit for size, when you start making your own garments. When you're making things that are measurement based, and you need to know how it's going to change as you crochet. For example, your tension might not be the same throughout the entire garment, so maybe you start off by making a skirt, and then over time you're trying it on and you realize it's getting too big. So a swatch kind of helps you to gauge how those measurements are going to turn out. I practiced making a swatch before each little crochet garment that I was making. And then that really helped me later on as I started making my own patterns as well. If you're a beginner, I would really recommend you start off by making and following tutorials, and then you just kind of start to get a feel for how you're going to break the garments down that you want to make. I like to look at it as simple shapes. So learn how to make a triangle. For example, if you're a woman or you need bust cups, you need to learn how to make triangular shapes or more of a cup shape. Skirts and tops generally have a lot of rectangles and square shapes. So really learn how to make those shapes first. Learn how to increase, how to decrease, making things like a pair of simple shorts, a really simple skirt, a bralette are great tutorials to follow to get a feel for how to make increases and decreases, how to make straps, so on and so forth. I also kept a notebook of everything that I crocheted, any little notes. Really, it's like, with anything else in life, you're really studying and teaching yourself as you go along. So I highly recommend I have multiple notebooks. Just carrying a notebook around anytime you're crocheting, make little notes. I also recommend just keeping all of your work. I have huge containers full of my past work and everything I'm working on currently, just so you can kind of compare and contrast and see how things have changed. One of the things I've noticed was my tension is more even now with practice. I really feel the most important thing here is practicing, really, exploring the different tutorials out there, and then as you practice more and more, you'll start to get accustomed to things like tension. You'll start to understand how different yarn fibers work with different hooks. And for me, it just came with time and with practice. I don't know how else to put it, really. It's just a lot of practice, a lot of following tutorials, and then slowly working my way up towards making my own clothing. So if you want to start off with making your own clothing, I would start off with something very simple. For example, you can follow a tutorial for a simple article of clothing, and maybe instead of following it entirely, you add something to it, or you use a different type of stitch, or you use a different hook and a different yarn. So I started off that way, so really tweaking the tutorials and the patterns that were already there and kind of exploring and trying to see if I can change it up a little bit. Then I also took a look at what kind of shapes the crocheter was using. Basic triangles, rectangles, how did they build up on those shapes to create the pieces that they were going to make? Another thing that's really helpful is to look at the clothing that you already have. Look at what shapes it's comprised of. So for example, if it's a tube top, you can kind of envision if you cut the tube top in half, it's just going to be a long rectangle. If you're going to make a boxy sweater, it's basically just two big rectangles for the body pieces, and then if you're making simple sleeves, it would just be two long rectangles. So you kind of need to envision what the shapes are going to be like, if that makes sense. So that's where having a notebook comes in really handy. Before I start crocheting anything, I first think of the idea. I sketch out a picture of what I want the piece to look like, and then I'll break it down into the different shapes. So I'll imagine myself cutting that piece in half, opening it up. What would it look like? What would the shapes look like? I'll sketch that out. One of the first pieces I ever made by myself with my own pattern was the romantic long sleeve top. I'll be posting the tutorial below. I remember it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was watching Twilight, and all of a sudden I had this idea that I want to crochet a long sleeve top. I had no idea where to begin. So I sketched out a small picture of what I wanted the cardigan or the top to look like, and then I broke it down into the different shapes. So I'm like, okay, so the front panel has to look like this. I need it to swoop down a little bit to accentuate the bust line. What would the sleeves look like? What would the back of the top look like? What kind of neckline do I want? How can I achieve that neckline? I don't know if this makes sense, but I really just kind of break it down into the different pieces. It's kind of like making one of those wooden pattern block puzzle games where you put the different shapes together and it creates a picture. That's kind of how I envision or imagine the crochet patterns to look like. So if there's something I want to make, the first thing I do is sketch it out, figure out what the simple basic shapes are in order to create that piece, and then from there I kind of build my way up. When I first started out, all my garments, if you notice, are made with the basic stitches. So double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet. I would say, if you're making your own patterns, start off by using those basic stitches, and then as you get more comfortable and you get that basic foundation down of what shapes you need to make the garment, Then you can start exploring with different types of stitches, different combination of stitches, lacy stitches, more closed stitches, less holey stitches. That kind of comes with, again, practice. I would say if you're just starting out, really stick to the basics and start off by creating simple things. I feel that that was the key for me to not get discouraged, was to start off by making things that were made of, for example, squares or rectangles, things that are easy, things that don't require increases or decreases. It's just straightforward. I would recommend making things like a boxy top or a boxy sweater. If you want to make a skirt, then you can follow a tutorial on how to do those simple increases. But really start off simple and then work your way up. The great thing about having the internet and things like YouTube is that you have all of these resources available to you. You have a great community of other people who have been in the same steps if you're a beginner, who have gone through, similar experiences. So you have resources, blogs out there where you can ask questions, share your experiences, and really get feedback from other crocheters. I'm still continuously learning every single day, so each time I make a new garment or a new piece, I try to use a different stitch pattern so that I'm learning how to do different combination of stitches. I try to make different styles of tops or dresses or skirts or shorts, anything, just so that I'm teaching myself and trying different things, so I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. I recommend, really exploring to see what's out there. Try to push yourself, challenge yourself, teach yourself, take notes, find out what works, what doesn't work. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. I have made so many horrendous, unwearable, can't even look at it garments and pieces, but that's okay. That's all part of the process. It's about making mistakes, about being frustrated, not knowing what to do, and then that satisfaction of when you finally figure it out, or when you make your first successful piece, something that you really love. It's just such a great feeling when you accomplish something, when you're able to crochet something, imagine something, and then see it come to life and be able to wear it and feel proud. When someone asks me why I love crochet so much, that is one of the first things I say, is that it's just so rewarding, and it gives me a space to creatively express myself through the clothing that I wear and the pieces that I make. So it's definitely a wonderful, beautiful journey. I love it so much. I can't wait to learn a lot more as I keep going. You learn a lot about yourself as well. Really pushing yourself outside the box as you go along. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. I hope that this video was helpful to someone in some way, in some shape or form. If you have any, other beginner tips on how to make your own patterns or clothing, leave them in the comments below. I feel that having a community is very important, and having a place for us to share our experiences is important. I remember reading all the comments on other crocheters' videos, on blogs, and I learned a lot from the community. So if you have any tips, any personal experiences you want to share, please leave them down below. Naru's getting very antsy. We're about to go for a walk later. So let me wrap this up. I want to thank everyone for continuously following my crochet journey. I am still continuously learning, and I will keep learning, and I'll keep sharing my crochet patterns, my ideas, and we will take this journey one step at a time together. If you have any specific questions, if you want to see any specific type of videos, or for me to answer any questions, feel free to leave them below, and I'll make a quick video about it as well. As always, I want to thank everyone for watching, for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Do you have something to say? I think she's ready for her walk. Alright everyone, I'll see you guys in the next video.